Hello, it's Youth Nerd Show, and today we're taking a look at Watchmen, the TV show. Let's take a look at the trailer.
We are no one. We are everyone. And we are invisible.
We convinced ourselves that they were gone, but they were just hibernating. They came for everybody. Oh, please. Always leave.
I guess we have ourselves a reckoning.
Watchmen.
What are you two talking about?
Oh, nothing. Just the end of the world.
Man, this show, talking about prolific, this show. Hold on, I'm trying to find a good image. Oh, perfect. So, this show, Watchmen, there's so many stories to this I gotta add to this. So much context for how I saw this show okay, so I never seen Lost by Damon Lindelof. Didn't watch Lost. Don't give a flip. So don't come at me about Lost. I watched The Leftovers by Damon Lindelof. And that show is one of my favorite shows of all time. It is about religion, all this stuff. And also crazy fantasy in a way. It's like cool. But nobody really watched it. Like at the end of season 2, which season 2 is probably the best season, there is like a 2 or 3 or 4 week period when it was very much looking like it could get canceled. And then HBO eventually was like, all right, we're going to renew it for one more season, but it's only going to be 8 instead of 10 episodes. I was like, I'm just glad we're getting any at all. And season 3, I think, is really good. I think every episode in season 3 is a perfect episode. I just don't think the season is a perfect season. But anyway, I say all that to say, when Damon Lindelof got Watchmen, I was like, interesting, because I was a little worried. I was like, what the heck is he going to be able to do after The Leftovers? And can he do anything that's, going to have that sort of same level of gravitas, even though he's coming off of something that not a lot of people watch? Even though season 3 of The Leftovers is really good and probably one of the prettiest, and almost looks, it might be one of the more expensive seasons, maybe. I don't know. It just looks really pretty. I know that much. Did it do good enough to get Damon a good budget or any good job after that? And the fact that he got to do Watchmen, and based on that trailer alone, it is so expensive. I'm like, oh my god, this is like Damon Lindelof's biggest show probably, besides Lost. So yeah, I was already hyped, and watching the movie. So when the movie was coming out in 2009 or whatever, I read the comic before I saw the movie. I was very young, probably too young to have read the comic and too young to have watched the movie. But it was just, the trailer from the first Watchmen looked so cool. The vibe seemed so interesting. And that Smashing Pumpkins song, in our darkest hour, dum, da, 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 all that jazz. But so like, I had an idea of what Watchmen was, and the idea of seeing Damon Lindelof taking that and doing an adaptation of that really juiced me. But then he says, I'm not going to do an adaptation of Alan Moore's Watchmen. I'm going to do a sequel. And then I was like, oh, wait, what? And then you got to see these little news reports of like, so the show's going to take place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's going to follow like a small group of cops. And I'm just like, oh no. I'm getting scared. But I'm also intrigued because I'm like, what the fudge is this? And then the first episode opens on the Tulsa Massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where this town of black people was demolished by the KKK. And this was a true story event. And that's the first scene in the first episode of this new Watchmen. And I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be thick. And it is. It is a thick, dense season of great filmmaking, great acting, great storytelling, thematic excellence, this show. But it also is like, it throws a lot at you. Me and my dad, we watched every episode twice every week because it is just so much. We had to like watch it the first time for the experience and then the second time for the, okay, what actually happened though? And I love that. And also we watched it week to week. So there was a building of like questions and intrigue with every episode. They do some very interesting, very smart, very awesome things with this character, Hood Justice, who is like the first superhero in the Watchmen universe. But then they also take a look at Superman and how that and Hood Justice's origin stories are linked, and that was insane. And then, so this show comes out in 2019, and it's about masks and people feeling a certain way about masks. And then the pandemic happens, and everybody has to wear a mask. It was very trippy. And also, so in the original Watchmen book and the movie, I'm not going to spoil it, but something happens, and Rorschach, who is the sort of character you mainly follow throughout the first Watchmen movie and book, before his untimely death, I will mention that, he exposes a massive secret. A secret that should have made peace on Earth, but perhaps maybe because he exposed it, it ruined it, or peace on Earth was never going to happen. That's for you to decide. But what I like about it is Rorschach, he's like a super hardcore Republican person, but he is releasing the truth to the people in a certain time to try, like, he's doing the greater good, basically. Or what he sees as the greater good versus what someone else sees as the greater good, and that greater good meant killing millions of people. But what I like about what this show deals with is, in present time, this show takes place like 20 or 30 years later after the comic, you got this Rorschach cult. And the Rorschach cult, like, they basically cling on to the truth that Rorschach released, but then just basically collected over also the racism and hatred of certain people and all this jazz. And there's a character in the show called Looking Glass who has a mirror mask, which is awesome. And he is like, he's actually closer to a Rorschach cultist than he is not, but he's not racist. And so he can't fully buy into it. In fact, he even goes to support groups for this trauma thing, which I don't want to spoil because his episode is actually really good. The 5th episode of season 1. There's only one season. And I really like the aspect of how it sort of tries to relate basically economical issues in a sense, but using a giant squid monster to tie that in together. It, like, what I love about Watchmen is it is the maximum weird, but also is telling some really true things, and then those things are just clasping together to create this epic piece of art. And that's all I can say about that. I mean, god dang it, go watch Watchmen. Like, if you just like, yes, it's very dark at times. You're going to learn some real history, and then you're going to learn some ideas that are, like, interesting, but also potentially political, and if you don't want to get into that, that's your prerogative. But I think also the story in the show itself, and how they sort of slowly reveal everything. Dr. Manhattan is in the show, and you do see him do some cool Dr. Manhattan things, and his episode is amazing. It's just an epic comic book TV show. And so, like, when I put all that context of what the fudge is this going to be, but then at the end of the day, when it was all said and done, it was everything I probably wanted from a Watchmen anything, and also a superhero anything, while also subverting all that jazz. So it's all cool. I love it. So yeah, go watch Watchmen. Goodbye!